Welcome to this CSS tutorial. Now in this video we're going to be looking at the ID attribute. Now we've been using the class attributes. We'll be using the class attributes on our web page. But there is also another attribute which we can use to style our web page, and is the ID attribute. Now what the ID attribute is for? The ID attribute is used to style a specific element on your web page. If maybe you don't have plans on reusing that code, or maybe you don't have plans on reusing that ID attribute, you use the ID attribute is mostly used on a specific element on your web page. So that is what the ID attribute is for. So we have been using the class attribute. We'll be using the class attribute, but in this video I'm going to show you how to use the ID attribute. Okay, so let me just bring this let's toggle this very well, and now we are going to do this on our para tree. So we remove this class attributes. We're going to remove this, and we're going to put ID. We're going to use ID. So there you see it, you use ID, and then as usual you use your equal sign and your double quote. And now if we go inside of our CSS now, and how to specify an ID. You don't use the dot sign. How to specify an ID? You use your pound sign. Okay, so if we go over to our web page now, let's just give this more styling. Let's give it, for example, a background color of green. So you see the effect. Let's give it a background color of green. Now if we refresh this now you can see we have a background color of green on our web page for this para tree element. So that is how to use the ID attribute. If you don't have plans on reusing this, the ID attribute is only used on a specific set of code and also on a specific element on your web page. So that is how you use your ID attribute. But mostly people use classes, and ID attribute is only used on a specific element. So that is how the ID attribute works. And you can see for the class we use dots, but for the ID attribute we use a pound sign. You can see we use a pound sign over here. So that is how that works. But we are not going to be keeping this effect because we are still going to be using our class attribute. So let's just get rid of this. So we'll get rid of this, and let's put the dot sign instead of the pound sign. Let's put it back, and let's go over to our index.html, and let's remove the ID, and let's put it back to class. So we are putting this back to class. Yeah, and if we refresh this, and you will see now that this effect will be gone, and now it's gone. So that is the CSS ID attribute. That is how to use the CSS ID attribute. It is only used for a specific element on your web page. Yeah, so that will be it for this video, guys. I will see you guys in the next video.